Mukaravinda, give me the verse from the first canto, first chapter, about Krishna and Balaram. Welcome, those of you who just joined the yatra. It's really great to see you. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming from long distances and short distances, wherever you've come from. The pilgrimage of the heart started in Jagannath Puri. We just got back from there yesterday. And in our experience, the yatra is like cooking a sabji, where all the ingredients, and the yatra is the pot, and the hearing and chanting is the fire. And if the office and convention hall, you can just close the door, maybe it'll help. I know they have important things to do. The more we cook it, the more the flavors marry, and the more the preparation becomes fit to offer to the Lord. And so, congratulations for being the ingredients. It's a very nice process to come together and meld in spirit through the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, and especially Padasevanam, or especially Shravanam, Kirtanam, but also in the context of Padasevanam, coming to the Holy Dham, walking around. How'd you get here? Welcome back. And welcome back to everybody. It's heartfelt to see everybody. I deliberately didn't look at the list so that I would be endlessly surprised. And it's been so nice. And it reminds me also in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pastime called the Beta Kirtan pastimes, where Maharaj Prataparuja is hearing from Gopinath Acharya about all the associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who come down every year from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri. And they stand up on a roof. And from that perspective, seeing the devotees arrive in waves, Gopinath Acharya explains who everyone is, because he knows. He has connections to Navadvip and knows all the devotees. And is explaining to Maharaj Prataparudra, who is a pure devotee of the Lord, but who's not acquainted with all of the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's just a pure devotee of Lord Chaitanya. And one after another, he's getting to know everybody. And today is Lord Nityananda's appearance day. Nityananda Trayodasi. And we had fasting day for Varaha and for Ekadashi. Now we have a fasting day for Lord Nityananda. And many more to come. And this verse, to start us off in the vein of today's hearing and chanting, is from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, 20th verse. And I'll say the Sanskrit, and then if you like, you can repeat. Kritavan kila karmani saharami nakeshava atimartyani bhagavan gudha kapatamanusha kritavan kila karmani saharami nakeshava atimartyani bhagavan gudha kapatamanusha kritavan, done by, kila, what, karmani, acts, saha, along with, Ramena, Balaram, Keshava, Shri Krishna, Adimartyani, superhuman, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Gudha, masked as, Kapata, apparently manushaha, human being. Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked, he performed many superhuman acts. Let's say together, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked, he performed many superhuman acts. The doctrines of anthropomorphism and zoomorphism are never applicable to Sri Krishna or the personality of Godhead. The theory that a man becomes God by dint of penance and austerities is very much rampant nowadays, especially in India. Since Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were detected by the sages and saints to be the personality of Godhead, as indicated in revealed scriptures, many unscrupulous men have created their own incarnations. This process of concocting an incarnation of God has become an ordinary business, especially in Bengal. Any popular personality with a few traits of mystic powers will display some feat of jugglery and easily become an incarnation of Godhead by popular vote. Lord Sri Krishna was not that type of incarnation. He was actually the personality of Godhead from the very beginning of his appearance. He appeared before his so-called mother as four-armed Vishnu. Then, at the request of the mother, he became like a human child and at once left her for another devotee at Gokula, where he was accepted as the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata. Similarly, Sri Baladev, the counterpart of Lord Sri Krishna, was also considered a human child born of another wife of Sri Vasudeva. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that his birth and deeds are transcendental, and that anyone who is so fortunate as to know the transcendental nature of his birth and deeds will at once become liberated and eligible to return to the kingdom of God. So knowledge of the transcendental nature of the birth and deeds of Lord Sri Krishna is sufficient for liberation. I'll repeat. So knowledge of the transcendental nature of the birth and deeds of Lord Sri Krishna is sufficient for liberation. In the Bhagavatam, the transcendental nature of the Lord is described in 9 cantos, and in the 10th canto, his specific pastimes are taken up. All this becomes known as one's reading of this literature progresses. It is important to note here, however, that the Lord exhibited his divinity even from the lap of his mother, that his deeds are all superhuman. He lifted Govardhan Hill at the age of 7, and that all these acts definitely prove him to be actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet due to his mystic covering, he was always accepted as an ordinary human child by his so-called father and mother and other relatives. Whenever some Herculean task was performed by him, the father and mother took it otherwise, and they remained satisfied with unflinching filial love for their son. As such, the sages of Naimisharanya describe him as apparently resembling a human being, but actually he is the Supreme Almighty Personality of Godhead. Matsamo Nasti Papatma, what page? We'll do a Mangalacharana from the songbook. And during the yatra, it's very helpful to keep the songbook with you. It's a really good songbook. It's got a lot of beautiful prayers and songs, and also it has the ones that we'll mostly be singing. 173. And this is a compilation by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that we find in our padatis, prayers we can say in approaching the Lord. Matsamo nasti papatma napara. No, it's all together. It's in unison. Matsamo nasti papatma naparadi nasakaschana parihare pilajame kimbruve purushottama Yuvatinam yata yuni yunam chau yuvatau yata Mano biramate tadvan, mano me ramatantayi, bhumau skalita padanam, bhumireva valambanam, tvayi jata parananam, Tvameva Sharanam Prabho. Govinda Vallabhe Radhe Prarthaye Tvamaham Sada Twadiyamati Janatu Govindo Mam Tvayasaha Radhe Vrindavanadishe Karunamritavahani Kripayani Japadabja Dasyamayam Pradiyatam. Two prominent features that define the appearance of Lord Nityananda, or that can inform us. One is attitude. Everyone has an attitude, and all our senses have attitudes. We like some things and we don't like other things, right? And the senses naturally have these because of their previous experiences and associations. Purusha prakriti stohi, bhunte prakriti jan gunan, karanam guna sangosya, sarasad yoni janmasu. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that we develop all our attitudes, and each one of our senses has an attitude towards its external and counterparts, the sense objects, because of sangha. If you have association with people who like certain things, then you'll start liking them, because association rubs off, which is a colloquialism, and it's really true. And it's what Krishna says about association. And the combinations and permutations of attitudes that we develop here in the material world are really combinations and permutations of the modes of material nature. And when we have some training and we can develop our likes that are in the mode of goodness, then we can feel peaceful. When we're trained or we have association with those who are in the mode of passion, a lot of training today that we take is in the mode of passion. How to exploit a little better than you were before. Come here, little fellow, I'll show you how to exploit this world a little better than you were before. Which goes towards much of the academic and vocational training in the world. Be a better exploiter. Come to our university. And then, of course, there's the mode of ignorance. And Prabhupada said, if you want to become a drunkard, then the way to do that is just find a couple drunks on a park bench somewhere and go start hanging out with them. And they'll show you how to drink poison, fall down, get back up, drink more. And it becomes a natural inclination, the attitude of the senses. In the mode of goodness, there's a little bit of peacefulness, and one can maintain that for some time, but not forever, because ultimately the mode of goodness isn't unlimited, and therefore for the soul, it's boring. There's only so long you can eat vanilla ice cream every day and say, I like it, and then one day you say, no, I want something else. So in the Bhagavatam, the demigods praying to Lord Krishna in the womb say, Ye ne ravindaksha vamuktamaninas, tvayasta bhavara vashudha buddhaya, aruya krishnena paramharam tata, patantyato nadrita yushmanam graya. And that is that whatever place you've found refuge in this world where you think that you're now in a really good position, if you don't have Krishna consciousness, you'll fall down from that, because only Krishna is unlimited. The mode of goodness isn't unlimited. It's peaceful, and one will feel happier than in the other modes, but eventually one will fall back down, and there'll be an upsurge of the lower modes of material nature that will grab us like a wave and pull us back down again. And further explaining this point in the fourth canto, it is said, Yet para pankacha palasa vilasya bhakta karmashrayam gratitam udgratayanti santa tadvanda rikta matayo yatayo pirudha shroto ganas tamaranam bhajavasudevam. That unless one has the enjoyment, the unlimited enjoyment of hearing about Krishna, remembering Krishna, serving Krishna, then one cannot remain steady in the material world. But if one can remember Krishna through the process of bhakti yoga and maintain practice, Mamcha Yovya Bacharina Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunan Samatityaitan Brahmapuyaya Kalpate. And gradually when it's like an airplane taking off a little more speed, and then the altitude lifts off, and gunatita can rise above the modes of material nature. And therefore, the apparent state of Lord Nityananda is extremely important. It is attitude that is mentioned at the outset of the Chaitanya Charitamrita when describing the appearance of Lord Nityananda. First, there's Krishna. He's Kavim Puranam Anishashitanam. He's the Puranam, he's the oldest, means he comes before everybody. And he's the first. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sakchit Ananda Vigraha, etc. And then his first expansion is Balaram or Nityananda. And there's, as Kaviraj Goswami says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which I always find an interesting statement, there's no difference between the two, except, I say there's no difference and then say there's a difference, but that's the way the variety of the spiritual world goes. There is no difference, but there really is a difference. There's no difference, but there's a difference in attitude. And this attitude of Balaram, or Nityananda, is, I am the servant of Lord Krishna. And Lord Balaram and Nityananda are the same. They are just in different yugas. In fact, Shachi Mata revealed to her son Nimai that she had had a dream, a prophetic dream, and that was that she saw that Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya had in their hands her Krishna Balaram deities from her altar. Lord Chaitanya was holding Lord Balaram, and Lord Nityananda was holding Lord Krishna. And then Nityananda and Chaitanya were having an argument with the deities. And Nityananda Prabhu said, your time is in Dwapara Yuga. This is Kali Yuga. This is our time. And you see all these sweets in the house? All of them? The rasgulla, the rubbery, the, what else? Sandesh, gulab jamans. Stick to the Bengali stuff. He said, these are all ours. And if you won't submit, then perhaps we'll take to beating. And when Shachi Mata revealed her dream to her son, Nimai said, oh, your deities are very potent. That's all he said, and then walked out. In Kali Yuga, Lord Nityananda appears, or Lord Balaram appears as Lord Nityananda. And so Lord Nityananda's attitude, Lord Balaram's attitude is, I'm a servant of Krishna. I'm a servant of Lord Chaitanya. And that's his mood. And the only other difference is that Lord Balaram is white, whereas Krishna is blackish. And then, of course, Balaram expands himself unlimitedly into various other servitors of the Lord. There are the Chaturvyuha, and then Mul Sankirtan, Shankarshan, and then the secondary Chaturvyuha, and then the Vishnus, who manifest into the material world. And then there's Shesha, who brings up the rear, and if there isn't any service covered, then he covers that. And that's all emanating from the attitude of Balaram Nityananda, is service. And there's only a handful of entities who don't have that attitude, and they're all in the material world. Because all of the Vishnus who expand, Departure Eva Hida Shantanama Bipetya, Dipayate Vrivata Hetu Samana Dharma, Yastadrageva hicha Vishnu chaya vibhati govindamadi purusham maham bhajami. The Vishnus are one category. They're Vishnu Tattva, but there's this differential made because there's one original, and then there are all the expansions. And all the expansions have a slight different attitude, and that is the original has, I am the Lord of all that be, as Krishna proclaims in the Bhagavad Gita, Matak Paratanam Nanyat, etc. And all the expansions have the mood of I'm a servitor. And so how can we take advantage of this? By aligning our mood with Lord Balaram and Lord Nityananda. What is my attitude? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Jeev Krishna Das e Bishwas Korleto Ardukonai. If you just make this one little adjustment, then you'll be happy. Does that sound okay? Sounds great. Make a little adjustment, you'll be happy. And that is, if you'll just develop the firm conviction that I'm a servant of Krishna, or even make a declaration, I'm the servant of Krishna, or I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of Lord Krishna. Naham bipro nacha nanapatir napi vaisho nashudro, naham barni nacha gripatir no manasto yatirva. Kintu prodyan nikhila paramananda purnamritabdir gopi bhartu parakamalayor das anudasaha. Means I'm not any of these other designations. My main attitude is I'm a servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. And Prabhupada said in a lecture that when you have this mood, I'm the servant's 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 servant, 1,000,000 times removed. That is liberation. That's his exact quote. And so we can follow Lord Nityananda. There's no harm in it. People are very protective of their position here in the material world, whatever it may be. As Prabhupada quoted, even a pauper is proud of his penny. And everyone thinks they have something to protect in this world. But all will be lost. Nothing can be protected here in the material world. But if we develop this mood that everything in the world is paraphernalia to be used in Krishna service, and I don't touch anything unless I have the purpose of using it in Krishna service, then we're perfectly aligned. And when we're perfectly aligned, just like Prabhupada said, if an elephant tries to fight against the current of the Ganga, he'll be swept away. But if a tiny fish goes into the strong current of the Ganga, it can swim upstream because it's now suited for the Ganga. Its body is conformed and is perfectly formed. So he said, in a similar way, when we adjust our attitude to be like Lord Nityananda's, that I'm the servant, 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 servant of Lord Krishna, of Lord Chaitanya, then we're not affected by the waves of the material nature. We won't be washed away by it. We won't be captured by it. And that's the great secret. And anyone can take that up and put his or her heart and soul into that transformation that I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant, 1,000,000 times removed. So that's the attitude that Lord Nityananda gives to us and imparts to us, gives us permission to take up. And the second is the order. When we have a service attitude, then what are we next searching for? We want an order. What is in an order? Everything. Because as servant, we want something to do. Servant means service. So now, what would you like me to do, my Lord? And Lord Nityananda takes orders from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the main order Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave Lord Nityananda and his other primary devotees was Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shika. They'd go teach the process of devotional service to everybody you meet. And did Lord Nityananda do that? Just say yes. Yes. So he went out, and did he go door to door? And when people opened their doors, sometimes Lord Nityananda would roll on the ground or get on his knees and beg them, just chant the names of Gauranga. And can we do that? Yes. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this open order. Jari Dako Tahi Kaha Krishna Badesh Amar Guru Hana Tara Adesh. That here's an order, open to everybody. That once you decide I'm going to change my attitude, I'll be a servant. Now I want an order. Oh, it's an order I can take. Go out and teach Krishna Upadesh. Teach everyone about the process of Krishna consciousness. And it just so happens that that's a order that's, when fulfilled, extremely dear to Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Recently we read at Purport, well, I don't know if we read it in Jagannath Puri, but I alluded to it. And I read it, and it is in context of Haridas Thakur. And Sanatana Goswami had mentioned that he's the best devotee because he practices by chanting and also teaches. And when Haridas Thakur is speaking to the Lord, he's trying to alleviate his anxiety. The anxiety of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that the living beings are suffering here in the material world. He's extending himself, and you can think of how the Purushas expand as the Lord putting on a rope all the way into the material world, all the way down to Kshirdakshai Vishnu. Imagine, Karnadakshay Vishnu glances at material energy and impregnates it with the living beings and also surcharges the neutral energy of the pradhan with time and karma, and then everything starts to move. Then he comes as Garbhadakshay Vishnu, and he enters into every universe. Otherwise, how's there going to be any light? Dark universe without Garbhadakshay Vishnu. And then he expands Brahma from his navel and gives Brahma the service of expanding the various facilities of the material world for living beings. And then Kshirdakshai Vishnu, another expansion of the Lord, enters into the heart of everybody. And he extends himself in this way. So everyone is capable of taking to Krishna consciousness. The prayers, Personified Vedas say that in their prayers to the Lord that this is your greatest pastime, the way you extend yourself to the living beings in this world. And so, the attitude and the order. If we pick up an order from the Lord and take it seriously and apply it, especially the order of how to assist him in saving the conditioned souls, then Haridas Thakur, he said, we just want to alleviate your anxiety. And Prabhupada comments there that this is the best kind of service, is to alleviate the anxiety of the Lord that some souls are lost here in the material energy, and give them an opportunity to come out. And when we apply these two things, attitude, what's the first thing? Attitude. Yeah. Do anybody here have an attitude? Say yes. Do your senses have an attitude? Yes. Mine do. I describe it as entitlement. I feel entitled to that. It's like, no, not to. No, I really think I should have that. And I'm like, no, you can't have it now or ever. The second is, first is, second is, second is, first is. If you just take these two principles, two ingredients, and you put them together, then you have a perfect life, following in the footsteps of Lord Nityananda. And magic happens wherever you go. You turn a boring boring drudgery of the material world into a festival wherever you go. And it's hilarious fun. As Lord Nityananda, he's also funny. And his name, Nityananda, means he's always having fun. There's never a time when he doesn't have fun. And the only reason I don't have fun at a certain point I get bored is because of two things. One is, second one is, and if I just come back to, and I adjust them according to Lord Nityananda, then fun. Nitya Ananda. Nityananda is just fun from beginning to end. There's nothing to impede our fun. And the greatest fun of all is to go out as a representative, follow the order, and in the attitude of Lord Nityananda, of bringing souls back to Krishna. And how much can you do that? Shami Prakash is smiling. How much can you do it, Shami Prakash? Birds fly as high as they can in the sky. You can do it always. You can do it always and everywhere. That's why Lord Chaitanya said, Jari Dako Taya Kaka Krishnu Vedesh, Amar Guru Harantara Edesh. That means world's open for business. If you have the right attitude and you have the order, and if you follow the order, and I was just remembering something that happened in Los Angeles when one day we were going on book distribution. We were on book distribution, and we walked into a liquor shop. And can devotees go in liquor shops? Yes. Why? Because you have the right attitude and you've been ordered to go in. And when you walk into, if you know you have the order, it's like, hey, you can go anywhere. It's like, wow, thanks. You go in the liquor shop, and I went in the liquor shop, and the guy behind the counter knew what was happening because living beings are smart. And he didn't look at me because he knew what was coming. That's how smart living beings are. They're going. In fact, sometimes when the Harinam Sankirtan goes down the street uproariously, and some people pretend like we're not there, though. Yeah, right. You didn't hear that, right? And this guy behind the counter didn't pay attention to me at all. And then I stayed there because he didn't tell me to leave. He just pretended I wasn't there, but I was there. And I was following an order. Lord Chaitanya said, go anywhere you like. Go everywhere, in fact, even in a liquor shop. So I thought, okay, here I am. I'm not leaving until you look at me. And then we'll deal with that. And then another guy came in to buy some liquor. And he had picked up from the shelf, which is a famous kind of liquor in America. You wouldn't know it here, but it's called Colt 45. Colt 45 is liquor for people who want to get intoxicated really fast. And they don't care about the vintage or, does it have an aroma or anything like that. They just want to be intoxicated. And he noticed that I was standing there with this guy, and there was a standoff. He noticed it because living beings are smart. And he thought that this was very interesting. And so finally, the guy behind the counter looked at me, and I started asking him questions. And I asked him how many languages he spoke. And he said 4. And then I said, I'm going to guess which 4 they are. And if I do, then it was tacit, but the idea was, if I guess what the 4 languages are, then you have to talk to me. And so here were my guesses. Arabic, Farsi, English, and French. And that's what I said. And he said, okay. And then I tried to hand him a book. And I figured a large book would be a little abrupt. in his development, because at this point I could see it was not much. So I had a Perfection of Yoga, a very small book, and as I reached out, I could see that his hand wasn't going for it, so I did a reverse, which for some reason gets 95% of the people's hands to go like that, because it came from a different angle. And then the next level of the standoff started when I asked him for a donation. And I could see that the man with the Colt 45 was fascinated by this whole exercise of free will. And there was also a palpable sense that I was doing something meritorious. And people can sense that, even in a liquor store, maybe especially in a liquor store by contrast. Because after all, people know that they shouldn't drink something that you can light on fire. And it's intuitive, and it's also part of society. It says, not very good, you have to have a license to sell it and so forth. In any case, I asked him for the donation. I said, at least I give 1 penny, give 1 penny, give 1 penny. And finally, he reached in the till and he gave me $1. And I could see that the man with the Colt 45 became joyful, as if something had just broken loose in the universe. There was some opening of the clouds, and something came through. And why was it? I'm just a kid from Lafayette, California. Someone had given me an opportunity through Attitude and gave me an order and said, listen, kid, you want to make something of yourself? You take this order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you can be one of us, one of the devotees. And you can go out also and offer this to other people. Just live a humble life of devotional service, get a good attitude towards the world, towards other living beings, towards Krishna, and then just follow the order. And then you're free to move about the whole universe. You can go anywhere on behalf of the Lord. And those instances where in some obscure little liquor shop, where it's business as usual, and somebody who's taken the right attitude and the order can then make a monumental difference. Who else can make a monumental difference in the world? Even if you win a Nobel Peace Prize, it's not monumental on a cosmic level. It's insignificant. So Lord Nityananda has given us the opportunity to follow him. He makes no discrimination. Anybody can apply. In the interview, all he asks is, you have a little faith in this. And if you have your faith, he'll sign you up. And next thing you know, you're part of the spiritual world. And you can feel it yourself. And you can see it manifesting in everybody you come in contact with. Yesterday when we were distributing books in Jagannath Puri, we're walking down the street. The closer we got to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's there in the middle of town, the more Bengalis we're meeting. And one guy, we stopped. He was smoking a cigarette. We met a couple of cigarette smokers and one ganja smoker too. And the last guy was an older guy. And we approached him, and as soon as he saw us coming, he put the cigarette behind his back like that. And then he took the book, and he was looking at it. He heard our message, which was give a donation. And then he put the cigarette down behind him, wanting to save it for later. He was so attached to it. He kind of put it on a ledge, hopefully so we wouldn't see. And then he gave a donation, and then we walked away. He found it again and started smoking. But when we saw that unfold, how he had gone like this, it just reminded us that because of the order and the attitude, I mean, who are we to walk up to anybody in the middle of Orissa and demand money? What business do we have to do that? But he immediately acknowledged it and put his cigarette like, oops, I was caught. And next thing was, yes, I'll give. And that's because we're following the order. And if you follow the order and you keep the attitude, you'll be able to have an effect on everybody that you meet, what to speak of on yourself, because you'll stay under the protection of the spiritual energy by learning under His grace. Now let's see if we have a few reflections or questions. I'm afraid to look at my watch. We have a few minutes. Go ahead. Hare Krishna. What we'll do during question and answers and reflections, pass the mic back please, is we'll pass you the microphone, a microphone, we have several, and wait till you get it, and then with the microphone, keep it as close and as directly towards your mouth as possible, and that way everyone can hear. Hare Krishna. No, because this microphone, that's a part I forgot. It has to be on. No. We need tech support.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was wondering if I don't have the right attitude, because it's hard to have the right attitude all the time, what to do?
That's in practicing anything, is coming back to the point. And we'll naturally go to a default mode, the one the senses have of entitlement. And in the practice of devotional service, if we regulate our senses by practicing hearing and chanting, remembering of Krishna, the way we've been taught, then gradually the senses become purified. Sarvapadi vanirmuktam tat pratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha. There's a way in which devotional service becomes more and more manifest the more we practice. So practice means that we get better at things when we do them over and over again. So we can realign our attitude. That's our free will. And use your intelligence. Krishna says, Evam buddhi param buddva samstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatram mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. Fortify your intelligence by reading Bhagavad Gita every day and Srimad Bhagavatam, and you'll develop a intelligence that informs the lower self, the attitude of the senses. No, it should be adjusted like this. And as you continue, we continue, our senses gradually become purified, and it's not far-fetched because we're naturally part and parcels. We are part and parcel of Krishna. And our real happiness comes from being servants. And you can even notice it. I mean, did you see the devotees sweeping the floor this morning? Didn't it look attractive? Didn't you also want to grab a broom and sweep? Whenever I see somebody sweeping, I think, why can't I sweep? And there's so many things that we can do to serve. And if we just keep our senses active in service, they'll feel naturally satisfied. Oftentimes they don't feel satisfied when we get distracted somewhere else, and therefore there's a regulative practice of devotional service to say, okay, now it's time we do this, now it's time we do that. And children, a good example, sometimes they feel entitled to just to play all day, but then when they're given something very industrious or progressive to do, where their senses are more engaged, then of course playing is important too. But in one moment they'll feel like they don't want to do it, and the next moment they feel happily engaged. So our senses are a bit like children, and we have to be the adult in the room. Let's see if there's any more. Yes, Vaikuntha Nayaka. Good to see you live and in person.
Thank you, Maharaj. Actually, since you mentioned about attitude and order, I was thinking that while executing the order also we might develop the wrong attitude. And so I heard one statement by Gaurang Darshan Prabhu. He said that when you are serving, you think of yourself not as the origin of mercy, but as the medium of mercy. this way, and it goes so well with what you saw before, like in book distribution seminars, you said that there's a switch in the back of your head and you just turn it off. And even if someone actually says you get out of here, you just say I am a robo, and you just say okay, I'm going this, right? So I thought if we have this attitude that I am a servant and I'm just the medium of mercy, then you won't get fried up and you can keep going.
It's so well put, and it's the main point. Adjust our attitude to be the servant and be an instrument. If we're instrumental and we don't try to take credit, just like Prabhupada said, the man has a broom and he's sweeping, and the broom is the instrument, and there's a sweeper. If you become the broom and let the Lord use you to do whatever service, and just remember that I'm the instrument. And as you just said, and I'm repeating what you said, just using an analogy Prabhupada used, then we're properly situated. Something Drudgery Hari Prabhu once told me, he said, give credit when you give credit where credit is due, you never lose credit. So we don't lose ourselves by giving ourselves to service and being the servant. We actually distinguish ourselves in a proper way, because that's what we are, servants. And if you give credit to the Lord and don't try to say I'm the origin of mercy, then you feel satisfied. What's more, you'll be recognized. I mean, Prabhupada was recognized over and over again for doing something wonderful. He said, I haven't done anything wonderful. I've simply served the order of my spiritual master. He kept that attitude. Once in San Francisco, when we were in a darshan, one of the devotees said, it is all your mercy, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada slapped the table. He said, it is not. It is the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. He'd pass it. It's the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. And so maintaining the attitude and staying on the order means it's active. We have something to do. These are the two. Okay, there was one more. Yes. Shobhitirtha. The artwork here on the screen is done by Ladini Prema. She was in Puri, just left yesterday morning back for London, but just thought we'd appreciate that. Isn't that nice? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. In Puri, we were discussing this topic, and there was a sentence you mentioned, Lord Nityananda epitomizes Audarya. And the phrase that you used was container of Madhuram that overflows through service. So, this is a great opportunity to know more about this. And how do we link Balaram and Lord Nityananda through this mood that he had?
Well, thanks for using the word epitome. And thank you for not saying epitome. Somehow that's gotten around the devotional community. But there is no epitome. It's called an epitome. And just what you said. In Vrindavan, Vrindavan is sweetness. Lord Krishna's pastimes are sweet. And in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, that container of sweetness has not only filled up, but now it's overflowing. And its contents are going out to everybody. And when we are instruments in spreading that, then we'll also partake in it. The more you give it, the more you experience it for yourself. Because generally we see and reconfirm what we're doing through the medium of those who are giving it to. And when we distribute the holy names in written form or by chanting out loud or giving prasadam, extending ourselves in service to other living beings on the order of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, then we see it in them. And that's how we become realigned also. Oftentimes devotees who go out to distribute Krishna consciousness vicariously are impressed. They're impressed by seeing the enthusiasm of the person who's receiving. And they become more aware of how fortunate they are to be in that position. Because there is a way in which one can forget that I'm not the origin of the mercy. But when we see, first of all, others embrace it and then become transformed, we'll remember how we were transformed. And also, when we see in people a reluctance to take it, we can identify with our own reluctance to take it and notice how unseemly it is. A person ignores it, and what's there to ignore? It's just a little book. Don't be so obstinate. Or if somebody has a great objection to the chanting of the holy names, then we can think, boy, I hope I'm not like that when Krishna comes calling. So in the enactment of the order, we also take in the sweetness by seeing how it affects other people, and we also become informed of our own shortcomings by seeing them in other living souls. Living souls? I hope they're living. Okay. Shamya Prash?
Thank you very much. My reflection is just how you were talking about how much fun Lord Nityananda has, that he's just always having fun. He's having the most fun, really. And just how, by contrast, our attempts, my attempts, conditioned attempts to have fun just don't work out. But when the attitude and order is there, it's actually the most fun. It's just a big game. It's just a giant spectacle. It's unending. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Lord Nityananda was born of Hadai Pandit and Padmavati in Ekachakra, which is a spiritual hamlet that one can visit, and it's like no other place we've ever been. And his name given by his parents was Kuver, and everyone admired the beauty and intelligence of Kuver, but none more than his father, who was inseparable. He wanted to keep Kuver with him everywhere he went. And then came a time when a visiting sannyasi asked that Kuver come with him to assist, when he was 12 years old. Not the sannyasi. When Kuver was 12 years old, the sannyasi came and he asked, could you spare your son to come assist me? And after consulting with his wife, Hadai Pandit came back and capitulated. And then after that, he became disconsolate, having lost his life and soul. It's described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat that he was like a painted picture. He could barely move. He didn't eat. And he became absorbed in this mood of separation from his son. And then Lord Nityananda went on pilgrimage for many, many years. So that's also an option if you want to always be blissful. Just stay on a yatra. That could be done. I mean, Lord Nityananda did it. Balaram did it. Something about Balaram Nityananda. Balaram just took off when the Kurukshetra was warming up. He said, see you later, bye. And Lord Nityananda left his family life and stayed there until Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to manifest his Sankirtan pastimes in Navadvip. Then Mahaprabhu, or Nimai Pandit, was visited in a dream by Nityananda, who appeared on a chariot marked with a flag that had the insignia of a palm tree. That's his sign. And he was asking, where is Nimai Pandit? Where is Nimai Pandit? Where is Nimai Pandit? An effulgent being. And Mahaprabhu told all his associates that a great personality is going to appear. And then he did the next day. And Mahaprabhu said, go find him. And several of the devotees went out to look for him everywhere, but he couldn't find him. And then Mahaprabhu said, I'll show you where he is. And he took him to Nandanacharya's house. And Nanda was there. I love that pastime. Why is he hiding in Nandanacharya's house? He's there, and that's the first time that Chaitanya, Nityananda joined together in their pastimes of spreading the Sankirtan movement. In his childhood, it reminded me that Nityananda Kuver, he played with all his friends in Krishna Lila or Ram Lila, and they would perform plays constantly. And they were so accurate. Normally children play and parents are like, oh, okay, they're playing over there, we're over here talking. But everyone would come to see what these performances were, and they were so elaborately and in such a heartfelt way presented by Kuver and his friends that people were mesmerized by them, and they were so prolific in presenting them. One day one of the adults asked Kuver, how do you know all these pastimes? He said, these are my pastimes. And once when they were performing the pastime of Ram Lila, and during the part where Lakshman is struck by the Shakti weapon of the son of Ravana, who nearly killed... I'm sorry? What's his name? Indrajit, thank you. Indrajit. And there was a cure, which was that there was some herb to be procured. And in the pastime, one of the children threw a flower at Kuver. The child playing Indrajit threw a flower representing the Shakti weapon. And Kuver then fell to the ground as if he was slain, and nobody could revive him. And at first, everyone thought this is good acting, and then they started to despair because they couldn't revive him. And then one of the adults there had remembered a play in which somebody had actually expired because they had become so absorbed in the role. And then he inquired, did Kuver give any instruction about what to do? And he said, yes, if I become incapacitated after being struck, then you send the Hanuman to get the, what's the name of the medicine? Sanjivani. And of course he couldn't tell which one it was, so he brought the whole mountain. And when the boy playing the part brought it back and they administered the medicine, then he came back, Kuver did. They were so absorbed in playing in all the leelas of the Lord. That was his childhood. And while he was on yatra, while he was just traveling from one place to the next, he met Srila Ishvara Puri. He also met Madhavendra Puri and was initiated. And that reminds me that one of the great benefits of being on yatra is who you meet. When you go out to the holy places, you find those who are absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And if you meet those who are exalted souls, you hear Krishna Katha, and you make these spiritual alliances and connections. It can be life-changing. And also you notice the difference when you go home. Not to bring that up too early, but I can just remember sometimes coming back after 3 months on yatra, and I got back into Kennedy Airport in New York City and wondering why people were carrying briefcases. I think, what do you need that for? And in the Bhagavatam it said that there's only a festival going on constantly in the spiritual world. And one might think, well, what's the use of all this hard labor, ugra karma, if there's a festival going on in the material world? Then it's a valid question, isn't it?